I don't do too many of these, Andy, and it's because my time limitations are pretty strict and I'm super focused, but I recognize remarkable talent when I see it. So I like you, and that's why I agreed to do this, and I wanted to tell you that.
Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate that. I think there are times where I'm just losing that clarity, that focus, and I do feel like, is this going to work out? Like I'm building something that's making no money, and there isn't a monetization plan long term. And then do I have what it takes? Can I survive the next few years? So there are sort of definitely a lot of downs, and just hearing that from you, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, no, it's going to work out because you've been doing it for 5 years now. So there's a history there of you figuring out how to make it work. So you have to believe in yourself and build on that. I did the same thing. I was 21 when I started this business, so 36 years ago. And I had so many skeptics. Oh, that's a big undertaking. And I funded it myself with my credit card. So, when you believe in yourself and you go all in, like you're going all in, it works out, And so anyway, and it's not that I don't see that potential in so many other people, but I liked your consistency, your persistence, and your approach, which, says a lot about a person. As you know, in the DMs, it's flooded with people that lack the ability to come across in a way that doesn't demonstrate that I'm out there looking to get something for myself. It's more of a sharing mentality. So I just think you got a lot of things going for you that are going to work to your advantage. So I just wanted to let you know that, and happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And I know we're kind of short on time, so I don't want to take any more time.
Beautiful. Let's jump right into it, Steve. Thank you so much. I guess please share with the audience a bit about yourself and sort of what you do, and tell me about the business that you've been working on over the last 36 years.
Yeah, no, Weatherology is the largest radio weather network in the world. So we have 1,500 affiliate radio stations in America that carry our programming, which is very comprehensive, custom-tailored audio programming that integrates into automation systems for radio stations. So we can commandeer radio stations with severe weather programming, up to the minute, hourly updates that's very local and specific to that particular market. So we have a massive listening audience across the United States. And we've been very successful for 36 years building that business in such a way that it stands up firmly during recessionary periods and flourishes when things are going well. So, everything we've done is by design. And, past couple of years, for instance, we've done incredibly well, when so many businesses have struggled because we've set ourselves up to succeed regardless of the circumstances. And so this digital platform, which is Weatherology, our mobile app now, is taking that audio expertise. And our patent, Andy, is real meteorologist in real time translating text instantaneously. So it's like Siri and Alexa on steroids. So it's really, it's real meteorologists, and we literally create our own content that we translate in real time. So that's all scalable. So if within the app, we can do weather updates for any place in the world, and we'll add different languages over time as the platform grows. And so next will be Spanish sometime in the next year, and then we'll build on that. But we plan to integrate some features into that platform, which will make it very unique. It's the only app in the world that's CarPlay enabled and Android Auto enabled as far as real-time weather audio is concerned. So we'll integrate into vehicles, smart speakers, and we do a lot of things with big companies on a much higher level, like Tesla integration agreements, where we use our weather expertise to help smart cars and all sorts of things. So it's been a very, very successful business, largely because I've surrounded myself with incredible people that complement all the skills that I don't have, and I focus on the few things that I do incredibly well, which provides me with ample opportunity to focus on self-care every day. So all these things you hear me talk about on LinkedIn are things that I actually practice. I spend 5-6 hours a day on self-care, which could include, like today, a 5-mile walk with a 50-pound backpack and going to the gym, doing heavy lifting and reading for an hour and a half, meditation, yoga, all sorts of things. So it's very different than I think the typical CEO. Most CEOs are on a fast track. They spend a lot of time in meetings. Their days are very, very busy. And I did that for many years myself. knowing full well that at some point I wanted to get to this place where I gave myself all the time I needed. I still got my workouts in and did all those things, even when I was working 17, 18 hours a day, much like I'm sure you are right now. But the ultimate objective was to get to a point where I had complete control over my schedule and allocated the time each and every day that I felt was critically important for the things that truly matter most, which in my case is relationships with my family, my closest friends, cultivating talent at my business, and focusing on health and wellness, because I can't do anybody any good if I'm not in good shape mentally, physically, and operating at a high level of efficiency. And I think that's where a lot of CEOs unfortunately fail, is no fault of their own. They're just busy, and their time restraints prohibit them from being able to set up a schedule like this. I know it's possible, but it takes a tremendous amount of deliberate effort to do that.
Is your routine really, is it really time scheduled out? Are you waking up the same time every day, doing the same workouts at the same time each day? Or is it sort of with the flow and sort of how you feel that morning?
No, I mean, that's a fantastic question. Ironically, an article I wrote this morning talks about sleep and the importance of it. But the reality is, that sometimes as an entrepreneur, that luxury of getting 8+ hours a day sleep is not going to happen. To build a super successful business, in my case, which was a 24-hour a day proposition, 7 days a week, I spent 16, 17 hours a day, literally 7 days a week, devoted to building this business, which included doing weather updates for radio stations at all hours of the day and night in the beginning, when I was the only on-air meteorologist providing that service. So, the article addresses that, and it also talks about how you can nullify that by focusing on certain things that we can do to help offset the fact that we may not get the quantity of sleep that most people evangelize, but I'm a big believer in quality of sleep. And I'm usually so exhausted, I fall asleep and sleep very soundly, as I'm sure you probably do too. And routine is a big part of that, is my point in all this, because I get up at 3:30 every single day, 7 days a week, Sunday, Christmas, doesn't matter. And I write, I do intense exercise. I'm in my upper 50s, and I work out with some professional athletes that vomit by the end of the workout routine, so it's super, super intense weight training. I used to kickbox professionally, so I still run, I still do hit cardio, I still do a lot of very, very intense training, and I work out 7 days a week. Some days it might be a little less intense, but intensity is always a big part of it. And I have very structured routines, and I adhere to those fervently. And that includes getting to bed at a reasonable hour, so I don't party, I don't drink, I don't go out and do stuff that a lot of people do. And these are the sacrifices, as you know, Andy, you got to make. And people, they want success, but they're more in love with the romantic version of success, which entails, I want to have a lot of money, I want to have a Lamborghini, I want to have a big house. And those things are fine. I don't fault people for desiring those things, but the reality of the process to get to the point where you can say, financially, I've addressed every financial obligation I have, which includes saving for kids' education, saving for retirement, having plenty of surplus plus cash for emergencies, universal life insurance policies, whatever it is that you're investing in. If you want to have a toy, then you have the cash to go buy the toy, which is a fun thing you can enjoy as a product of your hard work, but a lot of people finance those things. And so everything I do is very, very methodical. I'm on the extreme end of the pendulum when it comes to discipline and how I structure my life. It's not for everybody, but for people that want to be super happy in life and feel fulfilled and satisfied, I believe there's a beautiful harmony that needs to exist between relationships and work. I mean, how many people do you know that maybe have the financial success that we aspire toward, but their lives are miserable? They work too much. They have no relationships with their kids. They're estranged from their family, fourth marriage. Their health is in disarray. And if your health is in disarray, you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I feel like shit. And nobody wants to feel like shit. So these things are all important. And then there's people that are super fit, but they're broke. And, so I believe for me, that's why my 4 tenets of equanimity are so important, because it gives me an opportunity each and every day to concentrate on those 4 areas and find life satisfaction, joy, happiness each and every day compounded in gratitude, where I can find the energy and the momentum and the motivation that I create internally every day to pursue relentlessly the things that I'm passionate about. And like we talked about, I agreed to do this show with you because I see in you that kind of potential that I need to see in a person if I'm going to spend time with that person personally. And it sounds very elitist, and it's not intended to, but saying no and guarding our time is super important. And far too many people give it away indiscriminately to people like the kid that came up to me at the post office 2 weeks ago. I want to have a car like that when I get older. I said, why? Because I want to have a car like that. And we had a brief conversation. I could tell within 15 seconds, this isn't the person that's ever going to have a car like that, because they really don't want to do the work you got to do to get to the point where you can have a car like that, if that's something you want to have. And there's nothing wrong with desiring that, but too many people are enamored with the desire, just like they fall in love with the idea of being in love. And then the reality of being in love and sustaining love for a long time with a person requires two people fully committed to that. So anyway, I could go on all day. You got to keep me in check, Andy, because I will meander all over the place.
Over the last sort of 6 months, I really built the perfect routine when it comes to I'm getting a lot of sleep, 9 to 10 hours. I'm waking up, I'm working out while the kettle is on, I'm brushing my teeth. Like I had this like perfect routine that I sort of follow every day. And I sort of dialed it down, and I'm always filled with energy each morning I wake up. But I went through this problem where after 2 weeks, I'm just productive every single day. At the 2-week mark, every day I wake up with less motivation. Like even though I'm physically and mentally fully rested because I got a lot of sleep, there's no drive to get work done. Now I know the solution for me is to go travel, go to the snow, go on a hike and sort of take the weekend off or take a few days off. But I even feel like even if I routinely sort of go on a holiday every 2 weeks, every month, every 2 months, it's sort of, I don't know, what's your thoughts on that, Steve? Do you go through a period where you're doing the same thing 6 months in and then you wake up and you're like, what's happening here?
Never.
Wow.
Yeah. And I know that sounds strange and it's hard to describe. And I got to be honest, Andy, when I set off to start writing, like my book and doing my podcast 5 years ago, after my dad died, it was kind of my inspiration to start giving. I was at a point in life where I could take 6 months off and go to the Maldives if I wanted to, and just do whatever I wanted to. And then I realized that's so selfish. You know, I've got so much to share. And the satisfaction I get from doing what I do, much like I'm sure you do, from sharing your wisdom and knowledge with your audience, as you know, it's just so fulfilling to see people turn their lives around and learn the things that you have to share and be able to monetize their vision online like I know you do. It's just incredibly satisfying. And you get to a point in life where you realize that's a critical part of it. So for me, motivation is something I create internally. I never rely on outside sources for motivation. It's become such a critical piece. In fact, if people were to describe me, like close friends and people that know me well, intensity always comes up, highly motivated, optimistic. There's certain words that I just know are going to come up repeatedly when people describe my personality. And it's because since I was 15 years old, I made the decision to make health priority number one. So I never have a day, honestly, where I say, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't feel like running. I don't want to work out. For me, it's the opposite. I've trained myself to get to the point where when I have 105-degree temperature, which I've had once in my life, I have to force myself not to go to the gym, despite the fact that I could collapse, because I'm so conditioned to do that, derive so much joy and satisfaction from doing it, that to not do it makes me feel miserable. So when you get to the point where these routines and habits become so habitual and so enjoyable, and you're constantly challenging yourself to do new things, and, you know, without knowing how you operate, every one of us is very differently. So for me to give people advice on motivation and drive and discipline, it's very tough, because some would argue I'm just cut from a different cloth. Like the way I operate, I have highly disciplined people.
Were you born like that? Were you born like that, Steve?
I don't know, Andy. It's a really tough thing to describe, because I had to really temper when I decided to go share my work with people. and it's largely based on keeping motivated. I had to figure out how to articulate that in a way that didn't make people feel alienated from the energy that I have, that I feel like I'm blessed with. I just feel like I'm blessed with this remarkable energy and this drive and this dedication. And there's a sense of urgency that I operate with too, which I think is critically important. When we develop this sense of urgency and have this relationship with mortality predicated on experience, like in my case, I've lost my mom, I've lost my dad, I lost my brother who was my best friend, I've had other losses in my life. And when you start to embrace the reality of how fragile life is and how short our life here truly is, you start to put into perspective how time evaporates so quickly. And so I don't spend time skirmishing with people about politics online. I don't argue with people about their religious beliefs or their sexual orientation. I don't have time for that stuff. It's like, you do you, I'll do me. Let's build off of those things we share in common. And you find out with people, there's far more in common we have than we don't have in common. People, I think, are really well-intended, but oftentimes we get defensive and hostile because we feel under attack. And when you obviate the effects of your ego, you just operate in a different reality where you move through life, realize, I don't have time. So you put up boundaries with all the unhealthy stuff and you make room for all the good stuff. And then you flow through life just realizing that when I get up at 3:30 tomorrow, I get up minutes before my alarm every single day and I bolt out of bed. It's not, I don't want to get up, I'm groggy. It's like, let's go. I'm ready to go. And so at that point in life where you can create and generate that kind of momentum. And I think you're doing great. You're very organized. You have to give yourself some grace, and maybe you're getting too much sleep. I don't know. I don't know. You just have to tinker, try some new things, add some new things to your work routine that maybe make work a bit more interesting. And I think you're doing that. You just told me you're planning to do some new and exciting things. And I think that's part of the process, exposing yourself to experimentation, allowing yourself to be curious. I'm always doing new things, and so for me, creativity, innovation, keeping work exciting, surrounding yourself with incredibly talented people that contribute to that process and giving them the freedom to execute without impunity. Man, that's when things get remarkable. We're the most successful business of our kind in the world, not because of me. I have a vision and I have people that know how to execute it because I leave them alone. So COVID for us wasn't a problem because we had been letting people work from home for 25 years. We had artificial intelligence 13 years ago before Amazon did, so we're always ahead of the curve. And it's because when I come up with a vision and it's always audacious, I share it with people and the first reaction now is always, wow, that's crazy, but I know we can do it. And then they say, great, go do it. We just hired a kid last week. Well, we gave a kid a massive promotion last week who joined us as a meteorologist, but expressed interest in programming. And I told our programming team, let him loose, let him loose, let him learn, let him experiment, let him do his thing. He's been doing that for 6 months, exceeds expectations. They always do when you believe in people,
What's your time allocation like throughout your day, given that you use 4 to 6 hours just on personal care? How is the remainder of your time spent, Steve?
Well, I mean, I spend at least an hour in the gym 5 days a week, intense weight training. I walk. It's not uncommon. I travel a lot. Travel is a big part of my self-care routine. When I travel, I relax. I notice my heart rate comes down, my stress level comes down. I love experiencing new culture, new places, new people. It's a humbling experience for me, and I can never be too out of touch with humility because that's a big part of what drives our success is being empathetic, compassionate, understanding. And when I travel to new places, most recently I was in St. Lucia and I walked up the beach from Fitzroy Sugar Beach, which is a beautiful resort. And I met a family that was fishing on Thursday afternoon with their kids, a gentleman who had 9 kids on a Thursday afternoon having a fish fry. And I joined them for the afternoon. We fished and I listened to this guy's advice on parenting and how he's such a good dad. And I learned stuff from people. And this is a guy that everybody that was traveling there would clearly overlook. Long hair, dreadlocks, smoking a big joint. I don't smoke, but I assimilate into their reality. As little 8-year-old kid taught me how to fish with my bare hands. I have experiences like that, Andy, and it just like removes me from the chaos, and it removes me from the stress and people feeling compelled to impose their beliefs on people. And that's the world I live in. And so it makes you a really grounded person. And so I spend my day focused on being less stressful, not letting the anxiety of life overwhelm me. That's why healthcare is important, so that when I do work, I am so laser focused, phones off, it's in another room, unplugged, and I'm dedicated to what I need to do. If I'm prospecting for new business, I know who my best prospects are because I've taken the time to research who those people are. I don't waste my time with the 90% that I know for a fact will never buy anything from me. And that's something most people don't do very well. They're out there fishing with a gigantic net trying to catch a minnow. And I'm focused on the whale because I know how to communicate with the whale. And so it's just that my day is spent focused on doing the things that I need to do, so that when I work, I'm in my office and I'm getting things done. I eliminate as much email as possible. I've got a policy: don't send me emails unless it's something that, really deserves sending an email. Pick up the phone. I want to see you face to face, and let's take 3 minutes and talk about what you'd spend 45 minutes putting in an email. So I just have little things that I do that have worked well for me. And you do what works for you. I saw your list, you got a routine. Each of us is different, and so I don't like giving people advice on do what I do what Steve does, because the world doesn't need another me. Trust me. It's just like with my intensity and the way I operate, it's probably best we don't have more people. It's good to have balance, but that's, just find what works for you. And whatever works for you, do it consistently and fine tune it. That's what I think.
Given your worldview and all your experience, Steve, what type of questions should someone like me, a young entrepreneur in his early 20s, be asking?
Well, I mean, I think that's very, subjective to some extent. Everybody's different. Like the challenges you have because of the unique nature of your business, the conversation you and I may have privately might be very different than somebody that's trying to start a retail shop, because the challenges are very different. You've created a situation for yourself where you have the ability to move in the direction of not being tethered to a business 24 hours a day, where you can work when you want to and hire a team that can help start to do some of the things. So you're on the track, in my opinion, to do what I would do if I was your age. I would be heavily invested in my imagination, in technology, innovation, creativity, finding other great quality people that can help me make that dream materialize. And as quickly as possible, abandon the notion that you have to do everything, because the quicker you get to that point, the faster you realize that you can, like I stay focused on the 2 or 3 things that I know I can do better than anybody. There's nobody I could ever hire that could do those things better. So I stay focused on those things. And then my operation, I've delegated complete control of my operation. I did that almost 28 years ago. And the guy that I hired, I gave him complete flexibility to do whatever he wants to do, hiring the people he wants to hire. I don't even get involved. So, that kind of advice is, I think as a young person, maybe taking less advice from people that are unqualified to give advice would be a good place to start. There's a lot of people out there with social media now offering advice, and you have to be incredibly careful about who you receive that advice from, because I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people out there that I would never take any advice from, because there's no evidence in their life that they're doing the things that they profess that they're doing. I want to see a long-term track record. I want to see consistent success. I want to see a lifestyle that's commensurate with this mindset that you profess to have, and I want to see relationships, your kids, your wife, your spouse, your boyfriend, your husband, your partner, whatever that might be. I want to see happy people that say great things about you because you're living those things in your family life. So yeah, advice, I would say be not so hard on yourself and give yourself some grace to go out there like you're doing And you're doing it since age 18, and I applaud you for that. A lot of people don't get that far. So I know you're going to be a huge success because you've already started this journey at an early age. You already know what it's like to get up every day and be committed to something that demands you have to generate the income to sustain your livelihood. That's a huge thing.
Did you always have technical knowledge when it comes to AI and programming? That's something that really surprised me. The fact that you guys are so ahead of the curve and you sort of seem more of a salesperson, but then you sort of do understand the importance of technology, what artificial intelligence is, how to sort of understand, programming and hiring the right developers and letting them do your thing. That's like really impressive.
Well, I mean, I'm a prolific reader, so I read and it's not the number of books we read, it's, but I'll read 75 books a year easily. And for me, I'm always exposing myself to new areas of interest. So I'll read about these things way before they start to become a trend. And then once I latch onto an idea, Andy, I wish I could take all the credit, but I find the people that could do those things and help that vision become a reality. So everybody on my team, these people are so incredibly talented. So that when I say, hey, I'd like to take real meteorologists and translate in real time, I've got people that do that. I wish I could say I did that, but that's my idea. And I have people that are so smart and so talented, they can say, yeah, give me a little time. Give me a little time, I'll figure that out. And that's the kind of relationship we have there. When you get your business to a place where it's clicking on every cylinder and people just operate. I mean, you'd be amazed at how few meetings we have, how little time we spend wasting each other's time having meetings. I mean, just the little things that we free up in our day most CEOs would be envious of how few meetings I have. And most business people. I literally meet with my chief operating officer 2 times a year. That's how much I trust him, and that's how much he trusts me. That's how much we trust each other. And this idea, we can't let people work from home. The business is going to fall apart. I say, I feel sorry for you if that's your attitude. I really do. Because what you're saying to another person is, I don't trust you enough to be a grown-up person, to find meaning in your work and develop a routine that works for you, that allows you to have a life outside of work and do your very best work in the tradition of building something together we all share and benefit from, that affords you complete flexibility over your schedule. To me, that's the most insulting thing you could say to a grown-up who's got a master's degree or a PhD or some ounce of ambition in their life. Not how you want to be treated, not how I want to be treated, but that's how so many people are treated. And when I treat people, I expect the best from people, and I'm incredibly disappointed when they don't live up to that expectation, which happens so rarely. And in the event it does happen, they usually leave. Because we're very candid from the inception. Listen, here's my expectation. I'm going to give you complete control, flexibility, trust. But the minute you violate that, you're done. Because I'm not running a daycare.
That's beautiful. Steve, where can people find more about what you do, learn from your content? I was surprised, your LinkedIn, you're really active. You're replying to every single comment, and I'm surprised that you're really on top of everything. But where can people find more about what you do?
Well, you can go to weatherology.com, get the Weatherology Mobile App, it's free. And then you'll find me under About Us, and you'll find me at the top of that page on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, starting to do some stuff on TikTok. I got a long way to go on YouTube, Andy. I'm going to have to learn from your expertise, and I'll teach you some things on LinkedIn. But I've been blessed to be named one of the top 50 influencers on that platform the past 3 years in a row. And I love LinkedIn, and I encourage your audience to get on LinkedIn and take it seriously. It's a very underestimated platform. I was one of the original video creators on that platform 4 years ago. And I was blessed to be able to get in while the wave was ascending, And so I got in there at the right time, and people resonated with the content. And my engagement, as you referred to, that's how strongly I feel about people. Everybody that takes the time to make a comment on a video that I created or read an article that I wrote, I feel obligated to respond to that person, even if it's, you're awesome, thank you, appreciate you, have a great weekend, whatever. And that's part of how it works, as you know, in social media. I mean, people take the time to reach out and express their appreciation for the work that you did. That little touch goes a long way. It's hard, but I spent a lot of time the first 3 years on LinkedIn making sure I did that myself. That's how important it is to acknowledge people and show appreciation for people, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for your time today, Steve. I really appreciate it. I just love how real and raw you are, and as well as the self-awareness of like your own intensity and how you sort of embrace your own intensity and you double down on that. But then underneath all that, there's this high level of empathy and kindness that I can just sense through the screen. And thank you so much for your time again.
No, it's my pleasure, Andy. And my daughter reached out to you. I told her about you, young people like you that are doing extraordinary things. As you know, kind of rare. And I'd like to see your generation grab on to that kind of ambition. And so we'll keep in touch because I know you're going to do great things.
I'd love that. Thank you so much, Steve. That's the podcast. If you guys made it this far, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I really love this episode. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week with another episode. And thank you so much for your time today. Peace.